previous video, we've talked about certain words, and I think that the problem with society is they become so complacent to words that they use every day that they don't even know what they mean. And we think the word traitor. I know people who believe they're Christians. They're in the stock market. They're moving around. They're brokering things, using people who are officially available to do that. But it's legalized gambling. There's no other way to look at it. It's I don't know how they can believe anything other than the joke is on us when we don't realize that the word broker means broke. So, I mean, if you're broke and then you go around brokering something, that's quite hilarious, but people believe there's something there. There's nothing backing our money other than the stupidity of the people, and I'm not here to back up the idea that there could be actually a good just weight and measure to run our society, because that was never the purpose of God for man to ever deal in and trade in gold or silver or any of that stuff, even to have a just weight and measure, as the Israelites were told to do, have just weights and measures in their bag. It was not God's purpose. Why would God need man to trade in money? The earth was not in debt, and therefore everything that was on it was there free for man until he started to actually take charge of something that didn't belong to him, and then he started to actually place value on it. And our situation to date has not actually gone off that course. We've been paying for the greed of man, trying to divide up and divvy up what is not even his to sell. For the lamb will never be sold forever, according to Scripture. So we do try to do that, and we do that under fraud, but most people don't understand that, and therefore they continue to belong into the illusion. And I'm here to help people to understand that the words they're using are not, they should not be comfortable with them. So therefore the word traitor comes from the word traitor, and therefore when someone is a traitor, you trade what is yours for something that it is not. That is really just a traitor. So you can understand us using a Gentile surname in exchange for our Christian name would identify us as a traitor, or more so a double agent, because we keep the two together, even though the law itself will establish the fact that under case law they are not able to allow anybody to transfer their given names to anyone. I'm going to read you out of case law without getting into actually the actual court case, because when I get into this, we're dealing with kind cooperation of a few individuals who are learning. And the only reason we're not identifying them on this video is because at this point, maybe it's not to their benefit to be this exposed. We will later, if it needs be, come into more details on it. But for the time being, I know that you may have to take a little bit of confidence on the previous videos that we're not putting up false evidence, and I certainly understand if you want to turn the video off at this point, but I'm not going to disclose the individual at this point because it was at his request that he wasn't disclosed in it. But I am reading out of a court case that was dealing with someone who kept on initiating the use of the statement of birth to it, which is the long form certificate in Ontario, which would be the birth record that was filled out by the parents, called the Form 2. And that record was being used to identify the individual who was being asked to state his name for the record, and it caused a lot of controversy. But some key things to cut through all the smoking mirrors on this came out in the transcripts, because unfortunately during the case, circumstances caused the individual to be unable, when they went ex parte in the case, to show up at the next case because he missed the court date by reasons of just mistaken timing on the calendar. And therefore, when he did not appear at the court case, he was in a situation, unfortunately, he had to appeal. And in order to appeal, he needed the transcripts to go forward if he was going to defend the case or be involved in the case. Therefore, it was required on him to receive 3 copies of the transcript. During the 3 copies of the transcript, we were able to review the transcript as certainly visitors and observers, because I want to let you know that I'm only a Christian visitor, and I'm only visiting you here by video, because certainly I'm no part of this world. And with my Christian name as evidence of that, I would not be able to go and merge into society. And it is a difficult walk, and I am doing the best I can to help people in pure charity. No, you will not be able to hire me or place a money amount on me to do something for you, because I'm here strictly to help people through understanding of Scripture. The words, of course, which we're going to deal with, whether it be in a dictionary of law or just which is really a dictionary of law, which being the actual dictionary itself of the English language, is a law or a law of grammar. So in the transcripts, on page 33, where it was Regina versus the surname of this individual, which I'm not going to disclose at this point, based on the fact that the individual or the entity playing in this world has decided not to want that to happen at this moment. So I'm respecting his position. It's not because of the fact, if it had involved me, I would just be saying what it is on the camera. So anyways, in the transcript dealing with him not being there at the court case that went ex parte, he was receiving the transcripts to talk about what went on in the court case, where previously he kept on submitting in the statement of birth to identify himself. And in this case, the Justice of the Peace rendered this information. There is no provision in the Canadian legal system which allows an individual to transfer his given names to anyone, whether to a person, a corporation, or a trust. Any document purporting to achieve that goal is in and of itself invalid, and having such a document notarized does not validate the document. Now, there's key words in there, the word purport, because we know in the Vital Statistics Act, section 46.1, and we know there's 46 chromosomes, regarding each individual in our DNA. The Act says that in the absence of evidence to the contrary, these birth records cannot be disputed. In other words, they can be entered as evidence in any court of law. It appears when they were entered into a court of law, even in a notarized form, which generally a notarized form says I've looked at an original or with the best we would have had of something. And if I make a photocopy of that particular form and then I bring it before a public authority, he looks at what appears to be the originating document and then puts his notary seal on and says it's a true copy. Well, it appears that they were saying that that copy, in respect to the given name, was not going to bring in any authenticity, because it was stating the fact that the given name was not transferable anyways. Therefore, if I went down the path trying to identify myself under the given name or the Christian name in a court of law, I'd be unable to do so by using a birth record, which is the first hypothecated document to bring me onto paper. I would not be able to use that document as evidence in a court of law if I was going down the path of identifying myself as a Christian. Because the Christian's no part of the world, therefore, even though of the world it's no part of, therefore it doesn't exist. The court is only seeing the arms of the surname, the property belongs to them, which would make sense. Therefore, the Christian's exempt from having even to come into the court. But those that are participating under arms would be in the court. So therefore, the only thing that document is really, in their eyes, evidencing, to a large extent, in the purpose of being used in a courtroom, which the Vital Statistics Act allows the purporting documents to be entered as evidence in, is only for the purpose of really, to an extent, establishing the surname, not the given name. So therefore, by going in there trying to identify themselves as a Christian, well, it's kind of a misnomer or an oxymoron, because why would I be going in there identifying myself as a Christian when I know that I've done something to identify myself as a Gentile and I'm armed? Therefore, how could a Christian bear a coat of arms? Because peaceable in law means free from the character of war. Well, how could I be free from the character of war when I have an actor name of war in my name? And because the law is only seeing you as surnamed, changed from a given name to a surname, which means you've been surnamed something else. That means your name's been altered, which on itself is an alteration, is an error, a defect. You've defected from your Christian jurisdiction and voluntarily walked into the other. But that didn't happen on this document. Your parents may have made the mistake, but the child's still protected because you didn't sign that document. And therefore, under an act of God clause, this document's null and void and only would protect the right of the intellectual property of Christ being on there, because you couldn't be framed for bearing arms because the child would be unarmed according to law in birth, and therefore could never bear arms. It's impossible to draft a child. But the draft of Christ, the cup of Christ, is on this document because that's the thing that was given. The surname was not given. The surname was something alleged or added on to the name. And if the name was changed to that, well, then now it alleges that you're in common with the rest of society. But you could never be, and it's only a matter of time of age of election for you to decide which side you're on. But this document still protects you because it carries both sides. 2 jurisdictions. Further, the document on this transcript goes into that it states, it brings in case law, and we're not going to get into that either. I'm just going to say that it spelled out a name of a entity using the surname in Alberta, and it was an Alberta Court of Appeal. Gave the case number, and it says notarization cannot give a legally ineffective document any force of law. The documents provided in this case, the documents provided by the person before me, is what the Court of Appeal said are, quote, not recognizable as any legitimate or conventional commercial or legal document. Close quotes. Open quotes again. The appellant put great stock. This is talking about use the word legal entity we're talking about that I have not disclosed who he is in this court case. It says that the appellant put great stock in the fact that his unconventional documents had been notarized by a notary public, but the involvement of the notary could not give these legally ineffective documents any force of law. So it'd be like me taking a counterfeit $50 bill, taking it before a notary, making a photocopy of it, and getting him to notarize it, and he'd say, yeah, it's a true copy, but it's a true copy of a counterfeit. So I don't want anybody to get upset in this situation and realize that maybe you're carrying a counterfeit because you can't put a Christian name with a surname. Therefore, the only thing the government can issue is a short form certificate declaring you as a citizen of something you could never be part of would be a counterfeit. So don't go to the counter and have a fit, because that would be a counterfeit. And that's what's going on. There's anger in our society. People do not know what's going on. We're dealing with a very, very clouded issue here because we haven't chosen. What is the government to do if they don't know what anybody's going to do? Well, they put them in the middle, and they leave them as a middleman, a broker, an agent, because how else could you run this crazy mess of confusion without giving somebody what we consider to be an equitable arrangement during their thought process to become part of the membership again that they once were. If we remember the evildoer who was on the stake, remember Jesus was in the middle, but he wasn't a broker and they didn't break his legs. But he had a discussion with someone who actually realized that Jesus was the supreme authority and was there dying for him as he was for all others. And he asked, would he remember him when he enters his kingdom? Well, it means he was already a member before, but he asked him to remember him, put him back in the membership. You were in the membership from the beginning, but you may not remember. It's time to get your memory in place and realize that you were in there by a gift. You can't earn this. And it's in your Christian name. And you will definitely understand in the future that if you walk by this, you will have a position of the highest authority even though you are a purchased possession of Jesus Christ, he will remember you on Judgment Day. They have set aside the judgment because no man can judge anyone, so this judgment's been set aside until you select what side you're on. And then when you start to speak this gospel message, the good news, not the bad news of the surname, which is at war with God, which will soon be those that are marked as a beast, that will be armed with the arms of society at Armageddon. And therefore, the only ones that will be saved from this mess that is about to occur will be those that are marked in Matthew 5 verse 9 as the peacemakers. For blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. And we hope that you will actually decide to be the peacemakers and not the war makers, because those that are in dispute will carry a war character in their name, which is the armorial bearing of Gentile unbelievers who work for Satan. You can choose one side or the other, but you can't be on both sides without expecting to be shot as a double agent. And you know how hard it is when you see in double, because you will definitely see things in confusion. So we've got to have a one vision to see this, and therefore you'll have visual acuity. You'll have ears to hear and eyes to see. So we hope this video has helped you on this matter, and we'll be talking further under the Trademarks Act, which gives you further clarity to what we're talking about.